Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with great recordings you've never heard of. And this one you've never heard of because it really has only existed very recently. So this is also the review of the recording. And now you'll have heard of it, and you really ought to grab it. It's orchestral music by Edouard Lalo. The marvelous Lalo, well, sometimes marvelous Lalo, played by the Estonian National Symphony Orchestra under Neeme Järvi, who has been doing a terrific series of French music for Chandos. You know, there was suites from Delibes ballets and Chabrier, and oh my goodness, all kinds of wonderful, juicy stuff that Järvi does so well. But this is a particularly valuable release, and it's splendidly played because it's like everything you need by Lalo in the orchestral sphere that's not a concerto. Now, as a composer, Lalo had some strengths and weaknesses. He was kind of outside the mainstream of French music of his day because he didn't come or wasn't educated in Paris, and he didn't win the Prix de Rome, and he was like hovering on the fringes. He wrote a splendid opera, Le Roi Dix. The Overture is here, and reworked the Overture as a separate concert piece. And he was best known as a violinist and chamber music performer. His most famous pieces, well, there are two of them, and they're both concertos. The Cello Concerto, which is delightful after you get through the first movement, and the Symphony Espagnole, which, as you all know, I can't stand because I got trapped playing snare drum in the finale for a Suzuki violinist with the Stanford Symphony, and we had to rehearse, and I'm not going there again. Other people love it, so I can't complain. It was written for Pablo de Sarasate. Yes. Actually, a bunch of his violin works were. And they're lovely pieces. They really are. But Lalo had absolutely no feeling for sonata form first movements. He just, they're all kind of a mess formally, and we don't need to go into the details of why. Most people probably don't even notice and couldn't care less. So, that's just me. When I heard like the Cello Concerto or the Symphony Espagnole and some of his other concerti, I just go, oh God, get past the first movement so we can enjoy the rest of it. Fortunately, there's only one first movement here. And it's a pretty good one, actually. It's one of his better ones. Because it's probably a later work and he was getting into it a little bit. But anyway, what have we got here? We've got the Overture to the opera Le Roi Dix, which is a big, passionate, dramatic work. And oh my God, they play the crap out of it. It's so exciting. It's a wonderful, wonderful performance, beautifully recorded. And then we have the Valse de la Cigarette from the ballet Namouna. Well, the Valse de la Cigarette is adorable, and it's called that because Namouna, the title character of said ballet, actually has to roll her own cigarette, and she's supposed to dance while she smokes it. She was supposed to dance while she smoked it on the stage, and it wasn't a fake cigarette. In fact, when they produced the ballet, she wasn't allowed to smoke it because they were afraid of a fire if she tried, believe it or not. Can you imagine a ballet dancer saying she's got to be puffing away while she's breathing? It's unreal. Anyway, so we also have the two suites from the ballet, Namouna. Namouna is Lalo's masterpiece. It's really funny. He wrote it in a rush. He was pushed to do it because he wanted to produce, an opera, Le Roi Dix, but they decided to give him a ballet instead, and he knew nothing about ballet. And they didn't give him the scenario until it was very late, and he needed Gounod to help him orchestrate some of it. But he got through it. And the complete ballet has only been recorded once. It was available on OVD, I don't think it's still out there. And it's wonderful. It should be popular, a really popular complete ballet. It lasts a little bit less than an hour. It's really beautiful. The story involves, it's from the memoirs of Casanova, I think, or someone like that. A guy loses everything at cards, including his slave girl, Namouna. And the guy who wins her falls in love with her and sets her free. And they spend the rest of the ballet trying to avoid revenge from the guy who originally lost Namouna. And at some point, she tries to smoke a cigarette. I have no idea why. But the music is full of exotic harmony and gorgeous orchestration and great tunes. And one thing Lalo really had was rhythm. He was a vigorous composer. His music is always rhythmically kind of gutsy. And this ballet is just so marvelously danceable and exciting to listen to. It really is. The music's first class all the way through. So you've got the two suites not the complete ballet, but they are wonderfully played. And Järvi is just, this is his meat and potatoes. You know, he just launches himself into it, and they go crazy, and it just sounds fantastic. I've enjoyed this about 20 times already. And then last, but certainly not least, is his Symphony in G minor. Now, it's his only symphony, his only major symphony. I mean, he wrote earlier ones that apparently were destroyed. Some of the music is based on his opera Fiesque, which was just recently published in score, actually. I mean, it wasn't performed until 2006, I think, or something like that. It's like nuts. And anyway, but it has very good tunes. And it's an enjoyable symphony. It's short. It's in 4 movements in cyclical form, like the Franck or Saint-Saëns symphonies. And it only lasts about 25 minutes, the whole symphony. As usual with Lalo, the first movement is a little bit iffy, but it never quite takes off. But it's more preludial. It's not long in this symphony, and the finale is really vigorous and bold and fun to listen to. And it ends minor, G minor key ending, which is quite rare. It's really an interesting work. It's had very, very few performances and very few good ones. One of its early supporters was Thomas Beecham. He's a later supporter, but early in the discographic history of the work. And his is the recording that most people learned it from. And since then, it's been sort of roundly ignored, even though it was written in 1886, which is the same time as the Franck Symphony in D minor and Saint-Saëns Organ Symphony. I mean, it's all 3 of those are all around the same period. And of course, this is the one that everybody has ignored. It's not perhaps as great a work as those are, but it's awfully enjoyable, and it gets a good, rigorous workout in this exciting performance. This is a wonderful disc. Absolutely a wonderful disc. And it's a composer that most of you probably won't know, or won't know well, other than the Cello Concerto and the Symphonie Espagnole. And he did write more, and some of it's very, very good. And here's an example of it, and I recommend it very strongly, especially if you want just nice, colorful, enjoyable, romantic, rhythmic, tuneful. It's got all the positive qualities you could ask for in a disc of this type, and it's just splendidly played and recorded. So do go for it, because now you've heard of it. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.